Well, earlier today, a handful of Republicans led by Congressman Thomas Massie introduced a discharge petition to force a vote in the House of Representatives on releasing documents related to the late and infamous Jeffrey Epstein. Now, this comes as the Department of Justice has been under pressure over its handling of the files. Many have been asking why the Trump administration is refusing to release the government's files on Epstein. Should we also be saying something? Joining me now to kind of navigate this mess, Sam McCarthy, the Washington Stand's news writer who has been tracking the Jeffrey Epstein saga closely. Sam, welcome to Washington Watch.
Thanks for having me back on the show, Tony. It's really good to be talking to you again.
All right, so, for those who haven't been really tracking this because there's just so much noise out there, give us the synopsis here. What's going on?
Well, in basic terms, Jeffrey Epstein was a prolific sex trafficker and sex offender. He'd been prosecuted at least once before. I believe it was in 2008 in Florida for child prostitution, essentially, and had been shielded from any serious ramifications. He then continued to cultivate friendships with rich and powerful people, including people like President Bill Clinton, numerous Hollywood individuals, lots of tech magnates. Bill Gates was a frequent guest of his. And famously, he had an island that involved sex trafficking children, where he would take the wealthy and the famous for that purpose. He was arrested and he died in prison, and we were told that he died by suicide. A lot of people found these circumstances surrounding his death, including missing video footage. The guards who happened to be patrolling every 10 to 15 minutes just happened to fall asleep during the time when he happened to pass away. He broke bones, supposedly, in his leg that you could not break from falling from the height that he did in his prison cell. So there were a lot of questions about it. We were really trying to find out who were his clients. One of his chief associates, Ghislaine Maxwell, she's currently in prison. She's been charged and convicted of sex trafficking. The question is, who was she sex trafficking to? And so that's kind of the genesis of a lot of the controversy right now. Is the public would like to know who all these rich and famous people were, and powerful people. A lot of them are politically connected, supposedly, who they were,
And that's what's supposed to be in these alleged files that the Department of Justice has?
Supposedly. So there's a question as far as what actually is in the files, what the files actually are. It's unlikely, particularly given, that we just went through 4 years of the Biden administration, that there was a literal list of all of Epstein's clients just sitting around somewhere in the Department of Justice waiting for Trump to return to the White House and make it public. So it's more a matter of releasing the information that they do have. And there have been some questions about, well, what about names on there who were people who maybe associated with or visited Epstein but had nothing to do with the child trafficking? Would that be damaging to their reputation? Who actually was involved, who wasn't involved, et cetera? So there's a lot of questions about trying to parse out what actually is in there, what's actually available in the information that the FBI and other law enforcement agencies have, and then determining what gets released to the public and who needs to be held accountable.
Okay, so Sam, again, I'm not the expert on this. I'm just kind of vaguely following it. But as I appreciate the situation, part of the controversy at present is that, if I'm not mistaken, President Trump, when he was a candidate and those surrounding him, said, look, we're going to release all this stuff. We're going to have transparency so people can see what's going on. They'll know what's in here. We're not going to have any more of these hoaxes that are in there because we're going to let everybody see what's going on. And in fact, when Attorney General Bondi and Dan Bongino, took his position at the FBI, this was something that was discussed, as I recall, that this was going to be released. Now, all of a sudden, it's not being released. And that's where I think the controversy is being brewed. Am I correct?
Yeah, a lot of the outrage that you're seeing from the public right now is based on the fact that you even have, Attorney General Pam Bondi actually said that the list, the Epstein list, she said, was on her desk. And then just a few weeks later, she said that there is no such thing as the Epstein list. And you had, FBI Director Kash Patel say the same thing. Then you had FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino say, well, we don't have footage, of Epstein's death because it's missing. And then suddenly the footage has been found and it's released, and a bunch of, experts look at it and say that it's actually edited. So it's really a question of kind of where is the transparency? We were promised, you would tell us what's going on. We'd get the truth. We'd get some accountability. We'd be able to hold people accountable. Well, where is that? That's where a lot of the outrage right now is stemming from the public.
Okay, final question for you on this, Sam. So where does that all stand at present in terms of the release of these files? I know that even Congress has been weighing in on this. Where does it stand?
Yeah, we've got a few congressmen led by Thomas Massey, who are pushing for resolution to call for the public release of the Epstein files, which is kind of a euphemistic term almost for any documentation that the FBI and other law enforcement agencies have pertaining to Jeffrey Epstein, his clients, and the crimes that he committed and that he profited from other people committing. But they haven't been released, and President Trump is giving people a hard time for continuing to ask about them.
Interesting. All right, Sam McCarthy, thanks so much for joining us.